All right, keep it coming, keep it coming, keep it coming. Of course you know her as Lorraine Baines McFly. Make some noise with Miss Leah Thompson! He is the esteemed inventor of the flux capacitor, Dr. Emmett Brown. Make some noise for Mr. Christopher Lloyd! And of course, you don't want to call him Chicken, but do you want to call him the hero of Back to the Future? Yes, you do. He is Marty McFly, Canada's very own Michael J. Fox! Your cast of Back to the Future!
Oh my God, I'm tired. I hope they sit down soon. It's really gracious and lovely of you. And it's so nice to be back in Canada. I love you all. We love you. I especially love you, dude.
Well, man, it's so good to see you guys all together right here on stage, back in Canada. Now, there is a cast member that's missing, and it's the DeLorean. A very important part of the franchise, and I'm kind of curious, each of your impressions, like, when you first discovered that, okay, so the time machine is a DeLorean, okay, what's the story with that? Like, what was your initial reactions when you found out that it was going to be a DeLorean as the time machine?
Well, the way I came onto the movie, the time between when I first read there was a DeLorean and the time that I was in the parking lot going, you built a time machine out of a DeLorean? That was about a day and a half. So I didn't have a lot of time to process it. I was like, DeLorean, yeah, that makes sense. And then I heard that they, at one point it was a refrigerator or something.
Yeah.
An abandoned refrigerator, which is really Bob and Bob. So I said to go with that. Kids, climb in the abandoned refrigerator. It'll be fun. But no, I thought it was a cool idea, and I thought it was cool right up to the moment I had to sign 37 miniature DeLoreans with the split. Because Chris takes up the whole hood, and it's Chris Lloyd, like big florid, giant graffiti letters. And I had to squeeze Michael J. Fox with my little parky hand.
Yeah.
So if you got a butch job, I'm sorry, I did the best I could.
Well, I mean, there was a famous quote, I guess, John DeLorean, right? That's the inventor of it, who actually said, "Thank you for keeping my dream alive." Like, so he credits Back to the Future.
Do you want to buy a kilo?
Yeah.
The second part of that line. Just take the trunk before you take possession.
Do any of you have any like recollections about the DeLorean? Because it is not a spacious vehicle. So, Chris, any recollections about the DeLorean?
So. I want to be smiling.
Well, I don't think I have to say it again. No, we were in it, and I had to drive back and forth slowly, and Einstein was in it, and you might have been in it.
No, but
Oh, Elizabeth Shue.
Elizabeth Shue.
No, I don't get a microphone. Go ahead, take it.
We had to have the windows closed, and it got really red. really suffocatingly unpleasant for some time. And that's a hell of a story, don't you think?
Well, I never really got to be in the DeLorean until I did Dancing with the Stars. Yeah. And they told me to drive really fast towards a camera. And it doesn't drive very well.
Right.
And I was like, no, I really don't think I want to kill you just for Dancing with the Stars. No. But that was my only experience of driving it. They don't drive very well. No.
Well, that means you probably had the best relationship with the DeLorean since it's only been for like publicity and like various other things. You didn't have to shoot with it a whole lot.
No, I just drape over it for pictures all the time.
There you go, yeah. But Tom, maybe a different story from your perspective.
I don't need your microphone. I'm a classically trained actor. And if you'll excuse me, I will use the microphone. Thank you.
I need another one.
Bless you all. Bless you all. God bless you. I know we have an old comic joke from the Catskills. The DeLorean is not built for a normally sized person like myself. That's right, buddy. So I'm stealing the DeLorean. The DeLorean. Go over and look at it, okay? It's a tiny little car. I think it's a Hot Wheel. I'm not sure. It's a tiny little car, so Biff is stealing the DeLorean. So you have to get into the DeLorean fast and everything. So it takes me about 3.5 minutes to get into the DeLorean.
Right.
To put my legs to origami myself into something. To get into it, and then to close the door, and my head goes above the roof line of the DeLorean. So with me in the DeLorean, with it closed, I'm just like that. I'm in fetal position. Bob Zemeckis, the director. Tom, you're stealing the DeLorean. You have to get in the car. I can't get in this car like that, Bob. So really, there's not a scene of me. They didn't. They cut most of the halfway point. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like me going to the car, then, you know, a half hour later, I'm closing the door of the car. So it's a terrible car. So it's a time machine, but they could have made a time machine out of like a Mack truck or something. By Shaquille O'Neal's car, it could be a time machine.
I see what DeLorean sales are left out there. They're just going to start plummeting after that terrible endorsement. Although, like, there was a story, correct, that nobody really wanted to touch the movie early on, and then Ford came along at one point and offered to do a deal with the producers to make it like a Mustang or something.
I heard that. But...
drive a fucking Mustang.
That is the famous quote from, I believe, Bob Gale, right?
Yeah, Bob Gale said that. Yeah, I heard that. That's a stupid idea. I think if it hadn't been a DeLorean, it should have been a Pacer. And that would have solved your problem.
AMC Pacer?
Big bubble Pacer. One of those AMC things that were really ugly. Or a Gremlin.
Gremlin. I had a Gremlin. That was my first car.
You had a Gremlin?
Yeah, it was my first car.
Wow.
Oh, Gremlin.
Yeah.
$999. New.
So there's like an alternate timeline where that's what you drove on Dancing with Stars.
Yeah,
like
that would have
the
been
Gremlin.
faster.
Yeah, they were fast.
Man, no love for the DeLorean on this panel.
I had and I hated that car, but not as much as the DeLorean.
The thing I remember about DeLorean was that there was about 90 of them. They had them cut, halfways, long widthwise, halfway lengthwise. They had ones that just had the top missing, and every single one of them was uncomfortable. They couldn't come up with a new configuration that wasn't bloody awful. And I had cuts, like pressing against the flux. There is no flux capacitor, it's just a bunch of metal. And it would dig into my leg, and then I had, like you said, Eine and and then Lisa Shue and everybody, and it would get rank. It was mostly me that made it rank, but yeah, it would get pretty stinky. And the thing with the dog is, when you're working with Einie, every time you do a take, someone comes in and gives him a handful of liverwurst. And like, so the whole thing smells like liverwurst and dog breath and me. And it isn't a new car smell.
See, now all you fans out there, if you want a truly accurate DeLorean, you just gotta pack liverwurst in it to capture the smell. I mean, was it when you approached this script, what was it about it that, I mean, I know you've been asked a lot of times about what appealed, what like kind of connected you to the script or why you connected with the script. But how was it different than the other roles you were seeing out there at the time?
Well, I was playing a werewolf at the time. Actually, what happened was I was shooting, I'll tell the story really quick. I was shooting in Pasadena, I was shooting Teen Wolf, and I was looking in the mirror and I was sucking my lunch through a straw, and I had all this hair glued to my face, and I was thinking, what did I do to my freaking career? And then I heard there was some location scouts on the set that day. They were looking for a Steven Spielberg movie. They were scouting for a Steven Spielberg movie called Back to the Future, and Crispin Glover was in it. And I knew Crispin, and I thought, shit, Crispin got a Spielberg movie, and I'm a werewolf. And then a month and a half later, I was on the film.
Yeah. Chris, how about you? I mean, you obviously had already, at that point, a very long and impressive career. What was it about this role? Like, how was it different than the other scripts that you were seeing?
God, I could go on, but it was basically, you know, when I first saw it, I didn't really get it, and then I read it some more, and something I had like a brainstorm on something, and I thought I understood Doc. Then I got really excited because he's written so well, he could really do a job on it. So I got very enthused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did a job on it.
I
Did a job on it.
was super. I just thought it was like the greatest script, and I thought it was the greatest part. I mean, really, just the idea that I had the hots for my son was like literally the best thing ever. I mean, I have a subversive sense of humor anyway, so I just thought it was, you know, kind of awesome and demented. And that's the reason Disney didn't want to make the movie in the first place, because that was so integral in the story. And they were like, this is disgusting, it's sick. You can't
And you're like, sign me up.
And you know, just as an actor, it was such an opportunity for all of us to show off and play different characters. And I really wasn't Lorraine McFly. That was a crazy character that I created out of just singing Mr. Sandman over and over again. I love the structure and the tale. And I always thought it had such a really deep meaning to see your parents when they were young and see that we're all kind of, you know, going through the same things. And also the idea that, you know, if you do the right thing at the right moment, that you could change your whole life. I thought that was really a beautiful message.
Well, be that as it may, back to the incest. Did you, I mean, like, you have a subversive sense of humor and you were kind of digging into it, but like, what about your friends or your agents, other people in your life? Were they saying, like, if you do this, this is bad news? Was anybody warning you off of it?
No, everybody was Steven Spielberg, go!
Yeah.
I mean, we had the same agent at the time. I mean, they were like, yeah. That was a big, big project.
Yeah.
It was a big deal, you know, because to play the different characters and to be in this giant, incredible movie. And, you know, it was just a huge opportunity. What about you?
I was very interested in my role because my role represented a job. So I was very interested in that. Because I have heard that you get paid for being in movies. Turns out not as much as you would think, but you do. I was very interested in it. Before that, I was on many episodes of TV shows on a very special Full House. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I had introduced biscuits and the national commercial for Kentucky Fried Chicken. So, yeah, before Back to the Future, I was Biscuit Boy. You're welcome. Yeah, before me, no biscuits. Okay. But I got the role. I got the audition, and I felt that in a movie role like that would probably go to a movie star or something. And I was auditioning to try to be one of Biff's gang members because I thought that's probably what I could get out of this. I probably won't be good, but I did my very best. It just so happened that early in the audition process, when they pair you up and they say, let's see, Tom, go with him and everything. And so you paired up with George McFly's. And the first person I read with was Crispin Glover. They said, Tom and Crispin, why don't you take the script? We went outside. We did the scene together. Well, first of all, he started, and I had never played a bully before. I was bullied myself in high school. I missed a lot of school. I was sick when I was young. I missed a lot of high school. I was pushed around by bullies a lot. And Crispin was so effective as soon as we started the scene that I stopped because it was like looking at myself in high school. And I just got distracted. And he said, "Is that?" I said, "Yeah, it's fine." And I thought, I hope I get to be one of Biff's gang members. But if they don't cast this guy, they are out of their minds. Because, man, he was excellent. So, it just so happened, I never read with anyone else. It was just Tom and Crispin, Tom and Crispin, Tom and Crispin. Years later, they said, oh, that first time when you guys read together, we just thought, oh, yeah, those are the guys. That's all, we're done. I mean, we'll make them do the dance and come back several times, but we're done. That's, we got it.
Leah, you mentioned Spielberg involvement. Of course, you're going to sign on. That's a big deal, him being executive producer. Well, he also served as sort of protecting the project at times, there being a note of change the title from Back to the Future to Spaceman from Pluto or something, right? Were you sort of aware, each of you aware at the time that Spielberg, having the power that he did, like and does, was sort of guarding this project and keeping it out of the interference of like the big studio heads?
Yeah, I think Bob was feeling a little sensitive at the time because I think he'd come off Cocoon or something, and he'd been let go in Cocoon, and I think that hit him really hard, and so he was trying to regather his steam, and so Steven kind of came in a particular situation and really protected the script and protected Bob, and got him through the machinery to the point where the studio believed in what he was doing and back in the movie.
Yeah.
I remember, I remember that Spielberg ran the camera in my audition in Amblin. It was really, he was so sweet and he made me feel so good. It was like such a great guy, but he knew, Bob Zemeckis is an amazing director. I don't feel like he threw his weight around at all. I don't remember seeing him that often because, Zemeckis was so fun to watch as a director. He worked so hard, and that's the reason so many of you can watch that movie, 50 times and still see something new. He was always trying to pack every single frame full of exciting details. And so I remember him like thinking, if someone if someone sees this 5 times, maybe they'll notice this.
Yeah.
So, yay! Thanks, guys.
I was thinking Steve protecting Bob on the set. I mean, Bob controlled the set, Bob ran the set. Steve was just behind the scenes making sure he could do that. But the thing I remember about Bob, along the same lines as what you were saying, is we'd be doing a shot, it'd be like 3 a.m, and something would go wrong with the shot, and we'd think, well, we'll give this up and we'll do this tomorrow. And Bob would just be working it, and then he'd go, okay, right, and we'd go and shoot it, and I just thought, this guy will just not die. And so this picture is done. I mean, he will not give up. He's a dog with a bone, and thank God for it. He was great to work with. So inspiring.
There's a shot at the beginning of the big dance in Back to the Future 3 in the Western town. That it's one of those long shots that goes through dancers and up and across a horse, all the way down into ZZ Top and everything. And I was in the shot. I think Chris was in the shot. Mary was in the shot. We did it. I don't know how, but like 57 times or something, because it just wasn't right. The horse moved a little bit. One of the actors made a mistake on the line or something, and we just did it over and over and over. But I think ultimately it was the commitment to the piece, the commitment to the final movie, that we will not settle for any less than it being perfect. So we can do it again. We'll just do it again until it's right. And I think everyone was on board with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, what kind of direction would he give you, especially when he has a cast with varying degrees of experience? I mean, it's your first big break, like, you know, you've done other projects. Like, what kind of director was he with the notes? Was he...
Better. He would say better to me. He would say, you do that better. You try it once with being funny. He literally he'd go, we had this thing about look of surprise and amazement, number 33-8, and I would go, and he'd go, okay, well, then go back to 31. Yeah, that's good. It got to be where it was such a physical task to do some of this stuff that he would take the pressure off by not loading up a lot of the acting stuff, getting you in the right place where you were feeling creative and you were feeling like you could do it without being explicit to you and saying like this line reading or this piece of blocking or this attitude that you frustrate me because you don't get it. He'd always make you feel like you were contributing artist in the piece, and yet he knew he was in firm control, which is the best thing. Someone's humoring you to make you think you're making a difference, but he's really running the show, and you can relax and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Chris, you want to add to that? Like,
I agree.
That's good.
do you need another microphone?
There. Zemeckis was amazing to me because he could do so many things at once. I remember lunch breaks. We'd all be sitting having lunch, and he'd have somebody in about something. And occasionally I kind of overheard it was somebody would come in with a new way of doing something, with a newfangled gadget, some new technological thing. And Zemeckis would just eat it up. I mean, he just couldn't get enough. And yet, at the same time, I would go up to him, or he'd come to me about something to do with a performance. And he knew how to talk to actors simply and to the point. Some directors don't know how do I tell this actor to do this, for God's sake. And Zemeckis just come right through it. He was amazing.
And if I may say, I mean, he was such a great student of film. I mean, Crispin and I would have a ball because he would say things like, and then you come in here. Have you guys ever seen She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, the John Ford movie? I was like, no, I haven't seen it. You know, his assistant, hey, at the Amblin screening room, set up She Wore a Yellow Ribbon and let these guys watch it. And we just go watch a movie. You know, we watched It's a Wonderful Life that way. We watched, Lee Marvin, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, was all that kind of, I mean, for me, it was like Chris and Michael said, when we got to the Western, and they told me, you're going to be an Old West gunslinger, you're going to be very dangerous and have a black beard and everything. And then they said, did you see Jack Palance and Shane? Or Lee Marvin and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance? So I got to watch these movies. First of all, if you haven't seen Shane, with Jack Palance, everyone's coming up to me, what a great villain you played. Oh my gosh, Jack Palance and Shane, this deadly gunfighter that's just in the shadows of the saloon, and Lee Marvin and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. So those were great, just fun to watch in a private screening room with free snacks. But it was a lot of fun.
Does it mean he liked you more or liked me less? Because he never told me I could see a movie.
He liked me way more than you did.
I never got to see a movie. Did you guys get to see a movie in Amblin? I only remember.
I saw a couple movies.
Maybe he was just trying to get Tom off the set for a bit.
He was probably trying to get rid of me. That's great.
Yeah. That's what we'll go with.
Yeah. Get Tom out of here, play on Birth of a Nation. Get it.
You know, when you say Shane, this has nothing to do with Back to the Future. It's just a super story. I don't know why I want to tell it, but Shane always makes me think of Alan Ladd. Alan Ladd was this great actor in the 50s, 40s, and 50s, and he was really short. and that's coming from me. And I learned that Alan Ladd used to make other actors that he'd work with that are taller than him walk in a ditch. They get ditch along his path where he was walking, and the person, the actor next to him, would be walking in the ditch. And that's the difference between a star and an actor. If you're a short actor, you have to stand on a box. And if you're a short movie star, everyone else stands in a ditch. I'm still on the box.
Ditch. If I'm in a shot in any of the Back to the Future movies with any of you guys, if you see us in a two-shot, I'm in my socks. Because they would always say, Tom, would you take off your shoes? Just to reduce it a little
You
bit.
take your feet. You stand on your ankles.
Well, Michael, while Tom was watching movies in the Amblin screening room, you're running, especially in the first film, you're running between, Family Ties, and then shooting at night. Yeah. And you have an excerpt in your book where you talk about you've got basically a teamster driving you from one place to another place, and then literally sometimes carrying you into your home and putting you in bed and tucking you in, I guess. And so I mean, do you think that kind of what's that?
You put me in the shower.
Mike, that was me.
That was me.
But they'd come in the morning and pick me up and literally sometimes they'd throw jeans and underwear on the bed and just say, get dressed, you gotta go. And then I'd go to work on Family Ties all day, and then I'd go have something to eat, and then I'd go to work on Back to the Future all night. And it got to be where I was getting about 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and if I got any sleep. And I was getting so confused. I remember being backstage at Family Ties, about to go into the kitchen, do a scene with Steve and Elise, and I was freaking out because I couldn't find my video camera. I was like, shit, I can't find my video camera. And it's wrong movie. But that was kind of the cool part of the movie for me, because when I saw it, it was such a surprise. I think these guys had a better idea of how good it was than I did, because I was either working on the show or working on the movie, and it was all I had time for. I didn't have time for anything else. And it was such a blur that I remember my agent calling me after he saw the movie. I was in England, and he had just seen a screening of it, and he called me up and said, I just saw Back to the Future, and I said, I'm sorry, I'll do better next time. And he said, no, it's great, it's going to be fantastic. And sure enough, I was in England when it opened, and I was reading the papers about what a big hit movie I was in. But I'd tell the English guy in the coffee shop, and he would riot. So we're a big Mr. Movie star. But it was an amazing experience.
Did you think that, was there a part of you that was really thriving off of the fact that you're, burning the candle on both ends and not getting any sleep, but looking back, do you think that you were actually, that was an adrenaline rush for you, a young guy,
It was heroic. When I first told my mom about it, I said, I'm going to do Family Ties, but I'm going to do this movie for Steven Spielberg and Bob Zemeckis. And she said, no, don't get tired. I said, Mom, this is what I came down here for. This is what it's all about. And that's what I really feel like. An opportunity like that, you just grab it. You just grab it with your both sets of teeth and just pull and get everything you can out of it. And to work with these actors, to work on that script and have that opportunity was just the best thing other than my wife and family that ever happened to me.
Yeah, here. And then, so of course it becomes a massive hit, and then Ronald Reagan mentions it in a State of the Union address, which is in 1986, or now even, would be very much the peak of surreal moments when your work project is being mentioned by the president in a State of the Union address.
The word surreal and president will ever be linked now. Thanks to Biff.
Yeah, I don't even know where to follow up with that one.
I didn't even know that story.
You didn't know Reagan? Yeah.
We predicted the Cubs winning and Biff winning the presidency.
Yeah, it was Reagan, obviously, mentioned in the movie, president, the actor. Like, in 1986, State of the Union, he says, where we're going, we don't need roads. And so clearly it didn't connect with you. It wasn't surreal for you. Like, did you?
I was busy making Howard the Duck.
I love that movie. Do you remember that? Like,
I remember, at the time, I was in line camping with a bunch of friends in the Howard the Duck line. At least we did.
just like that Reagan. I mean, it's just a footnote, but yeah.
Yes, it was a huge hit movie. Everything was fantastic, but like this pop cultural icon that has become, those were the beginnings of a rumbling that this is bigger than we even think. That it's bigger than a movie. I'm joking, but I've said, Back to the Future is released. It's great. Fantastic. It's hugely successful. Great. It's one of the biggest movies of the year. Fantastic. It's a cultural icon. It's been... Run!
Yeah.
Because it's just so huge. But, this is my brief sociology speech about Back to the Future. Back to the Future happened, in my opinion, right at the intersection of so many things in the culture. It happened at the very beginning of VHS tapes, of rental, of cable television, of the ability, like the first movie that you loved, that you had the ability to watch 600 times. Because it was the first movie where people wouldn't come up and say, I've seen it 324 times. I saw it 210 times in a theater. Now we have the VHS. We're waiting for the thing. So really, it was very early in that world that we all know now. But before Back to the Future, that didn't exist. You had to wait, as everyone knows, you had to wait for it to come on TV and then watch it. And then wait again, maybe a year, and then see it again.
Like Wizard of Oz.
Pardon me?
Like the Wizard of Oz.
Like the Wizard of Oz. It was like that.
Yeah.
So Back to the Future was the first one. Cable television, videotape, and of course the rise of just the power of popular culture. So it was just a perfect storm movie, in my opinion. And do you have the syllabus out? Like, hand them out, pass them down. It's gonna be a quiz.
Well, and what's interesting as well, like to add to that, is the fact that I don't know if it was the first, but it's definitely struck me as a early example of a film where there was such detail to the point of like creating the continuity, Easter eggs, like